Get divine protection. Now. The psalm that transforms lives in a world filled with uncertainty, fear, and constant challenges. People everywhere search for something greater than themselves, a source of comfort, strength, and divine protection. Throughout history, humanity has turned to sacred texts, prayers, and spiritual practices to find peace in the midst of chaos. Among these ancient treasures, one particular psalm stands out as a powerful declaration of faith and divine shelter, Psalm 91. This remarkable psalm has been called many things: the soldier's prayer, the psalm of protection, the traveler's psalm. But regardless of its nickname, millions of people across centuries have discovered its life-transforming power. This is not just another religious text gathering dust on a shelf. This is a living, breathing promise that continues to change lives today, offering hope to the hopeless and protection to those who feel vulnerable and exposed. The ancient words that still speak today. Psalm 91 begins with one of the most beautiful declarations found in Scripture. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. These opening words immediately establish a relationship between the believer and God, not a distant, impersonal deity, but a protective presence described through intimate metaphors of shelter and shadow. Think about what shelter means. When a storm rages outside, shelter provides safety. When the sun beats down mercilessly, shelter offers relief. When enemies approach, shelter becomes a fortress. This psalm promises that God Himself becomes our shelter, our safe place in every circumstance. The shadow of the Almighty is equally significant. In ancient Middle Eastern culture, to be under someone's shadow meant to be under their protection and authority. A powerful king's shadow represented his sphere of influence and care. When we rest in God's shadow, we place ourselves under His watchful care and sovereign protection. A personal declaration of trust. The psalm continues with a personal declaration. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. Notice the shift from third person to first person. This is not abstract theology. This is personal faith. The psalmist models for us how to speak faith declarations over our lives. Words have power. When we speak truth about God's character and His promises, we align our hearts with heaven. We remind ourselves of what is true when our feelings tell us lies. We build faith when fear tries to dominate. Speaking these words aloud transforms them from ancient text into present reality. A refuge is a place of safety from danger. A fortress is a stronghold against enemies. When we declare that God is these things to us personally, we activate faith. We acknowledge that our safety does not depend on our own strength, wisdom, or resources, but on the unchanging character of a faithful God. Protection from seen and unseen dangers. The psalm then details specific protections. Surely He will save you from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with His feathers, and under His wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness will be your shield and rampart. These verses address both visible and invisible threats. The fowler's snare represents traps and schemes, dangers we might not see coming. In life, we face situations where people plot against us, where circumstances conspire to bring us down, where hidden dangers lurk. This psalm promises divine protection even from threats we cannot perceive. The deadly pestilence refers to disease, plague, and sickness. Throughout history, humanity has faced devastating illnesses that claimed countless lives. Today, we still battle cancer, heart disease, pandemics, and countless other health challenges. This ancient promise remains relevant. God can protect us from illness and disease. The imagery shifts to something beautifully tender. God covering us with His feathers, sheltering us under His wings like a mother bird protects her young. This metaphor reveals God's heart toward us, not as a distant ruler, but as a caring protector who draws us close. Have you ever seen a hen gather her chicks under her wings when danger approaches? The chicks find complete safety there. This is the kind of protection God offers. Freedom from fear. One of the most powerful promises in Psalm 91 addresses fear directly. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday. Fear is perhaps the most crippling emotion humans experience. It paralyzes us, prevents us from moving forward, and steals our joy. This psalm addresses fear in all its forms: night terrors, sudden attacks, creeping diseases, and overwhelming circumstances. The terror of night includes nightmares, anxiety that keeps us awake, and the fear of the unknown that seems amplified in darkness. The arrow that flies by day represents sudden attacks and unexpected disasters that strike without warning. The pestilence that stalks in darkness speaks of threats that move silently and invisibly. The plague that destroys at midday addresses dangers that operate openly and boldly. In essence, this psalm says, no matter when danger threatens, no matter what form it takes, no matter whether it comes secretly or openly, you need not fear. Divine protection covers every scenario, every time frame, every type of threat. The mathematics of divine protection. The psalm continues with a stunning promise. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand, but it will not come near you. This is the mathematics of divine protection. Massive devastation all around, yet personal safety for those under God's covering. This promise has been claimed by soldiers throughout history. Countless testimonies exist of men and women in combat who prayed this psalm and experienced miraculous protection while others around them fell. But this promise extends beyond military applications. It applies to any situation where danger surrounds us. Perhaps you work in a dangerous profession. Maybe you live in a troubled neighborhood. You might face a health crisis while others around you succumb to the same disease. This psalm declares that divine protection can create a zone of safety around you even when catastrophe strikes nearby. This is not a promise of a problem-free life, but rather a promise of God's presence and protection through the problems. It acknowledges that difficulties exist in the world, but assures us that those who dwell in God's shelter have special protection. Witnessing God's justice. You will only observe with your eyes and see the punishment of the wicked. This verse addresses our human desire for justice. When we see evil people prosper while good people suffer, it troubles us deeply. This psalm reminds us that God sees everything and will ultimately bring justice. This does not mean we should take pleasure in others' misfortune. Rather, it means we can trust God's justice system. We do not need to take revenge or worry that evil will win. We can rest in the knowledge that God is both loving and just, and He will set all things right in His timing. The conditional promise Psalm 91 includes an important condition. If you say, "The Lord is my refuge," and you make the Most High your dwelling. This psalm is not a magic spell that works automatically. It is a covenant promise for those who actively choose to make God their refuge and dwelling place. Making God your dwelling means more than occasional religious activity. It means living in continuous relationship with Him. It means turning to Him first in every situation. It means building your life on His principles and promises. It means prioritizing your relationship with Him above all else. When we make God our dwelling, we position ourselves to receive His promises. We align ourselves with His protection. We place ourselves under His care. The blessings of this psalm flow most powerfully to those who genuinely seek God, not just those who want His benefits. Angels assigned to guard you. One of the most remarkable promises in Scripture appears in this psalm. For He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. This promise reveals an invisible reality. Angels assigned to protect believers. These powerful spiritual beings receive direct commands from God to guard those who belong to Him. They intervene in ways we often never see or know about, preventing accidents, diverting danger, and providing supernatural protection. The phrase, "in all your ways," is significant, not just in some situations, not only during religious activities, but in all your ways. Everywhere you go, everything you do, angels watch over you. This includes your daily commute, your workplace, your home, your travels, and your activities. The promise about not striking your foot against a stone uses a small example to illustrate a larger truth. If God cares about something as minor as stubbing your toe, how much more does He care about major dangers and threats? This promise encompasses protection from all harm, both great and small. Victory over spiritual enemies. The psalm declares, "You will tread on the lion and the cobra. You will trample the great lion and the serpent." This shifts from defensive protection to offensive victory. Not only does God protect us from danger, but He also gives us authority over threatening forces. The lion represents powerful, visible threats. The cobra represents deadly, hidden dangers. The great lion and serpent emphasize the magnitude of enemies we face. Yet the promise is clear. You will not merely survive these threats. You will trample them. You will walk in victory over them. This promise has spiritual implications as well. Scripture elsewhere describes our spiritual enemy as both a roaring lion and a serpent. This psalm promises victory not just over physical dangers, but also over spiritual attacks and opposition. God's personal promises. The psalm concludes with God speaking directly, making personal promises to those who love Him. "Because He loves me, I will rescue him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life, I will satisfy him and show him my salvation." Notice the repeated "I will" statements. God personally commits to rescue those who love Him, protect those who acknowledge His name, answer those who call on Him, be present with them in trouble, deliver them, honor them, give them long, satisfying lives, show them His salvation. These are not maybes or possibilities. These are firm commitments from a God who cannot lie. When God says, "I will," it is an absolute promise backed by His unchanging character and unlimited power. How this psalm transforms lives throughout centuries, countless people have experienced the transforming power of Psalm 91. Soldiers have carried it into battle and returned home safely. Missionaries have claimed its promises in dangerous territories and seen miraculous protection. Sick people have prayed it and experienced healing. Fearful people have spoken it aloud and received peace. But the transformation goes deeper than circumstances. This psalm transforms how we see God. Instead of viewing Him as distant or uncaring, we encounter Him as our intimate protector. Instead of feeling alone in our struggles, we realize we rest in His shadow. Instead of being controlled by fear, we stand in faith. This psalm transforms our identity. We are not victims of circumstance, but children of the Most High God. We are not helpless in the face of danger, but protected by divine power. We are not fighting battles in our own strength, but sheltered under His wings. Activating these promises today. How can you experience the life-transforming power of Psalm 91 today? It begins with a decision to make God your dwelling place. This means spending time in His presence through prayer and meditation. You cannot dwell somewhere you never visit. Regular, meaningful time with God establishes your residence in His shelter. Speaking these promises aloud over your life. Words of faith activate. Spiritual realities. When you declare God's protection over yourself and your loved ones, you align yourself with His promises, trusting completely in His faithfulness. Protection is not earned by perfect behavior, but received through faith. God's faithfulness is your shield, not your own goodness, but His unchanging character, living in obedience to His ways. While His love is unconditional, experiencing the fullness of His protection flows from walking in relationship with Him. Obedience is not about earning favor, but about staying close to the one who protects, refusing to give in to fear. Fear and faith cannot coexist. When fear knocks, answer with the promises of this psalm. Remind yourself of God's character and his commitments. Your invitation to divine protection. Today, right now, you can claim the promises of Psalm 91. You can declare God as your refuge and fortress. You can position yourself under the shadow of the Almighty. You can activate angelic protection over your life. You can experience freedom from fear and walk in divine safety. This is not about earning God's favor or being perfect. This is about relationship, choosing to dwell with a God who loves you and wants to protect you. It is about trust, believing that his promises are true even when circumstances look threatening. It is about faith, speaking divine truth over your life regardless of what you see or feel. The same God who inspired this psalm thousands of years ago remains faithful today. His power has not diminished. His love has not wavered. His promises still stand. The protection offered in these ancient words is available to you right now. Will you accept this invitation? Will you make the Most High your dwelling place? Will you declare him as your refuge and fortress? The choice is yours, but the promise is certain. Those who dwell in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. Get divine protection now. Speak this psalm over your life. Make God your refuge. Experience the transformation that comes from resting in his presence. Your life will never be the same.